Hello, this is Sahar. I hope you enjoy listening to this podcast. Now, you've had an extraordinary journey, which very much reminds me actually of Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, where you went all the way to Peru to find your treasure, literally your true calling, just underneath your feet. You had a vision, and then suddenly it became clear what your sole purpose is. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Is that something you can share with our listeners?
Yes, I was on a trip to Peru with a medical anthropologist and shaman, and as a part of a tour, but it was very boring. You know, I wanted to learn about Machu Picchu. I didn't want to hear about this lady's grandmother.
Yes.
And so I sort of snuck out the back of my tour and tried to find another one that was actually talking about Machu Picchu, and I joined the end of this talk at the Calendar Stone, I think the highest place at Machu Picchu, and the gentleman was talking about the Calendar Stone and said, and that's the end of the talk, and I was like, oh. Yeah, and so because I was the last one in, I was sort of the last one out, so we had to sort of file down some stairs that were very open and crumbly. So I was like, as I went down them, I looked up and I saw about 20 Inca standing around looking at me, red capes, you know, billowing in the wind, very black eyes. I think they had makeup, some sort of makeup on, and the gold cuffs and breastplates and staves and sort of parrot feathers, and I wasn't actually sure that they were Inca. I just presumed that they were, so I asked the guide, I said, what do they look like, you know, and he said, oh, well, parrot feathers, gold, red capes. And I was like, okay then. And as I was going down the stairs, the majority of them disappeared, sort of just faded out, and they were as clear as you are.
Amazing.
Me, really. And there was just one man, very, very intense, and he was standing right in front of me.
Yes.
And then there was another man on a lower level, on a corner, and this man had far more gold than the rest of them.
Right.
It was just absolutely smothered in it, and he was immensely powerful, and he looked into my eyes, and I heard him speak in my mind, and he said, you must follow this path.
Amazing.
And we will help you. So I was like, oh, okay. I was very, you know, immediately started crying, and you know.
Was it unexpected? I mean, were you?
Absolutely. I was just not.
Did you ever have a vision like that?
Never.
Amazing.
So he just pointed to the steps down and indicated I needed to go to the other Inca that was standing in this corner. And so I went to him and stood in front of him, and he pulled from me, grabbed my throat area, not actually my throat, but just you know, in front of it, and he pulled out, it seemed like a huge white balloon, and threw it to the mountains, and it was obviously some energy block, so I had no speech for about 10 days.
After before. Right.
And I think it had sort of come back a bit that day, but there was obviously something that didn't want me to speak.
Amazing.
And then like some of his energy came into me. I felt it rocking inside all the way down through my chakras, and then he pointed to the steps at the side of the mountain,
right,
and indicated, you know, that's it, you know, you can go now. And as I went down, I thought there's something wrong with my feet, because I could feel all of the rocks that very sharp.
Right.
And I had hiking boots on, and when I looked down at my feet, I had no hiking boots anymore, and they were just like funny leather shoes, almost made out of one piece
like
of leather wrapped around my ankle. And I was like, whew. And I knew not to go any further, so I stood with my back to the mountain. There's like a sheer drop in front of me, and the winds came and blew. It seemed like they were clearing my energy field, and then it was very, very intense, and I was really pushed back, and I didn't actually know until later that was the method of clearing that they had.
Amazing.
They used to use the winds a lot, and then the winds died down, and it was like, you can go now, you've finished here. And I was like, oh. So it was completely, you know, unexpected.
Did it seem longer to you? I mean, compared to actual time, you have no idea how long that took.
A friend saw me up there, and she knew something was happening, because she could sort of sense all the energies, but she didn't actually know what.
Incredible.
And I just had to sit down afterwards.
And now you have been actually practicing for some time. You describe yourself as a shaman.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us briefly what a shaman is?
It's $1 million. I think it's really, normally the shaman is chosen by the community to act on behalf of the community in healing and going between this world and the spirit world for information for healing. Historically, the shaman would track where the buffalo were, for example, and send out the hunters, to save time. And he would also perform healing works and also speak to the spirits of plants and say, what are you used for, what can you be used for? And the plants say, my roots can be used for this, my leaves can be crushed and used for X, Y and Z.
Right.
So it's more of an information, it's the pre-religion, it's very, very
right.
old.
You were actually chosen by the Quiro Incas, and you were taught the methods of healing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really intriguing to read in your somewhat modest article on psmagazine.com, and I quote, you say, "I allow the lineage of the Inca to work through me, to guide me during my illuminations, the core healing method, extractions of discarnate energies, and soul retrieval work." Before I knew any of this, actually, a friend of mine had a session by you recently, and I could really tell he was completely changed. And not only that, he's had was taken by surprise. He's had a fantastic illumination experience, and that really intrigued me. And it seems to me this is what is unique about you, or about what you were taught and how you practice now, which the Inca shared with you directly.
I'm glad I'm getting the easy questions.
It was really interesting because he's not he's what I call, between quotes, a normal person, and yet he was able to actually see the light or the illumination and to feel that.
I don't see it as something that I do. I believe that I was meant to do this work,
right,
but I don't believe that it's me.
It comes through you, obviously. You're a channel, absolutely.
And I think from the Machu Picchu experience, they are working through me, and there are times when I just try and stand to the side,
right,
and say, help me to help this person, and then wait for instructions. And things come to me, or I start doing things, and sometimes it can be different every day.
I see.
But there are core processes, and the illumination is the beginning of all the processes, basically. So whatever you do, you have to clean the person up first energetically. Right. If you're going to do soul retrieval work, your soul part doesn't want to come back to a energetically dirty body, if you like.
I see. So first you cleanse, and then if there is a soul part missing.
Yeah. So, I mean, these methods go back thousands and thousands of years, so I've just learnt them. It's very little to do with me. Yes. It's more about, I think I'm just, meant to do the work, therefore I have a level of success, but I still don't put it down to me. Just
absolutely. You're quite right, but it was really interesting that it did work, whatever you did, and this friend of mine actually felt it, which was absolute. So I'm looking forward to my session. What is also fascinating is that you claim that the healing that comes through you is permanent. How is that? Because from my experience, you sort of have to go for 3 sessions at least to kind of reach the level of harmony where you bring the energies back to balance. Is that also part of the tradition that you learned?
It's very fast work. The soul retrieval work alone is equivalent to about 3 years psychotherapy. Really? That's not my saying, that's what it's been likened to. It's very deep, it's very gentle, but it is permanent, and you're physically moving and getting energies to combust. Right. So it is permanent, and it is instant, because of the way that it works, basically.
Right. And finally, Dawn, if you were to go out to an isolated, beautiful island for an extended holiday, where you're only allowed to pack 3 items to take with you, what would those be?
I have to take my mesa, which is my medicine bundle with my stones in that I work with. I mean, that's part of me, a reflection of me. And
stones, are they actually?
It's a Mastana cloth from Peru. Has my stones in, and we have to feed it, we have to look after it, nurture it, and they're the
Right.
things that help the chakras release.
Right.
They help hold the energy. 3 things. Music. We have to take some music. And something to write with, I think.
That's lovely. Well, I can tell you right now that I do predict that you would write a book about all of this, and it would be a huge success. It was really lovely talking to you.
And you.
Thank you for joining us. And for our listeners, you can find out more about Dawn's work on www.liberate-online.co.uk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.